This is a 160 Q&A practice test. Plaintiff attorney, Mr. Pastor, capital P-A-S-T-O-R. Defense attorney, Mr. Wolff, capital W-O-L-F-F. And we'll start with defense attorney. Ready? Here we go. And Mr. Pastor asked you if he wore a mask for 2 or 3 days and sweated and coughed and sneezed and spit and things of that nature, you should find his DNA on a mask. Is that correct? Yeah, I would not be surprised to find that. What if Mr. Pastor wore a mask for a few days and coughed and sneezed and spit and did all sorts of nasty things that we people do? I object, Your Honor, to doing all of those things. Overruled. Everybody except Mr. Pastor. Continue, if I may. Thank you. You woke everyone up. Thank you, Judge. And then I wore the mask for a brief period of time, maybe a minute, then took the mask off and threw it. Is my DNA necessarily going to be on the mask? Not necessarily. In a situation where you're talking about wearing an item of clothing, it's difficult to speculate whether or not you're going to find DNA from that person on there. It's very likely, and it does not surprise me at all because of what I've described, but it's also not necessarily true that you will find the DNA there. For example, if you wear the item for just a short period of time, or you're very, very clean, and you're not sloughing off a lot of hair or skin, it's not necessarily true that you'll find that profile. And when you mentioned hair or skin, Mr. Pastor made it a point that you didn't decide which pieces of evidence to test. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office made that decision, correct? That's correct. But once this mask gets to you, who decides to take the sample out of that mouthpiece area? The scientist doing the analysis. Okay, and commonly when you receive a piece of evidence like a mask, what is the first thing that you're going to do to determine if there's anything that should be tested? Generally, we receive a piece of evidence like that. We're going to examine it for any unusual stains. Maybe there's blood on it. If we find something unusual, then we're going to look specifically at those areas. On this particular mask, it was examined and no unusual stains were noted. However, common sense will tell you that if someone's wearing the mask, there's likely to be some DNA near the mouth area, which is why we chose that area to test. So if they're going to leave DNA, then that would be a good place to look. That would be a good place to look. That you didn't find, or whoever, you didn't examine this, right? Somebody else did. That's correct. Okay, this scientist that examined it obviously didn't find any suspect stains, nothing unusual. That's correct. Didn't find any blood, didn't find any noticeable blood, didn't find any hair. That's correct. I mean, hair would have been easy, right? It's possible that there was some microscopic hair that he missed, but there was no visible hair. Okay, so no hair. That would be easily noticed by a scientist. So a scientist would say, okay, here's a piece of trace sample, so I'm going to test this. That's correct. The scientist pretty much looked at it and said, well, I don't see anything unusual. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to do the mouth, correct, right? After some close examination, he made the determination to test the mouth area. Now, Ms. Gold, if there was DNA in the mouth area from at least 2 people wore this mask, right? This DNA in the mouth area that we did not see, that the scientist did not see. How do I know, or how does the jury know that there isn't DNA on other areas of this mask that also the scientist didn't see? It's possible that there's DNA on other areas, so it would be possible to check any number of places on this mask and find any number of DNA specimens from any number of donors. Would that be correct? It's possible to test many areas on the mask, and what the results of that are, I can't speculate, but it's possible. that there's DNA on the mask that we're not aware of. And in fact, if somebody had just witnessed a shooting or robbery, a terrible scene, people running and firing shots and all, that person may become excited and they perspire, correct? That's correct. And if that person who was perspiring picks up a mask, then DNA could be transferred from his perspiration to a mask. Is that correct? It's possible. Casual contact is less likely to transfer DNA than more routine wearing. Okay, so casual contact. So again, if somebody did not own the mask but wore it for a minute and then discarded it, never to come into contact with it again, it would be less likely that his DNA would be on there than, say, somebody who actually owned the mask. Is that correct? It would be less likely. That's correct. And again, you'd need a threshold of how many cells. It varies, but I would say about 50 cells is an adequate number to receive a good DNA profile. And let me ask you, I guess the key question here, the most important question for this jury, do your test results, do your analysis exclude Travis Hayes or Ryan Matthews as being somebody who could have handled or actually worn this mask? My test results exclude Ryan Matthews and Travis Hayes as contributing to the DNA in the areas that we tested. Any additional DNA samples I can't say anything about. So you can't say that Ryan Matthews never wore this mask, can you? No, I cannot say that. And you can't say that Ryan Matthews never handled this mask, can you? No. You can't say that Travis Hayes never wore this mask, can you? That's correct. You can't say that Travis Hayes never handled this mask, can you? That's correct. If somebody is wearing a flannel shirt such as this one, I believe Mr. Pastor asked you about the collar, if you would have sweat or DNAs or whatever, both around the collar. What if a person was wearing a t-shirt underneath and the flannel shirt was worn over the t-shirt, but left open as some people do wear it? Would it be less likely that the DNA would go, I guess, through the t-shirt? All right. We had a short word list. DNA, capital D, capital N, capital A, all caps, no periods, no spaces. Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, capital JEFFERSON, Parish, capital PARISH, new word, capital SHERIFF, new word, capital OFFICE, Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. Ms. MS period Gold, capital GOLD, Travis Hayes, capital TRAVIS, new word, capital HAYES. Ryan Matthews, capital RYAN, new word, capital MATTHEWS. And that's it for the word list, and that will conclude our 160 Q&A practice test.